In 2025, Bill O'Reilly's name still carries a peculiar weight in American culture, half a symbol of once untouchable media power, half a cautionary tale of scandal and reinvention. For 2 decades, he wasn't just a television host, he was Fox News. The O'Reilly factor dominated cable news ratings, pulled in hundreds of millions in advertising, and shaped the way a generation of conservative viewers consumed current events. He turned phrases like "no spin zone" into cultural catchphrases, launched diatribes against the war on Christmas, and positioned himself as a kind of televised town sheriff, brash, moralizing, and always in control of the camera. Then in 2017, it all fell apart in spectacular fashion. The allegations of sexual harassment, the $13 million in settlements, the advertiser exodus, the Murdoch family's decision to cut him loose. It marked the end of an era, not only for O'Reilly, but for the media landscape that had revolved around him. 8 years later, the man who once ruled primetime cable has retreated into a media empire of his own making. While he no longer commands the 8 p.m. slot that once drew more than 4 million viewers a night, O'Reilly has managed to carve out a lucrative niche for himself in the fragmented digital-first media ecosystem of 2025. He lives mostly out of public sight in his Long Island mansion, occasionally photographed on his way to the studio he built on his property. There, surrounded by screens, microphones, and books, he records his daily show No Spin News, a continuation of the persona that made him famous, but now entirely under his control. It's a strange, almost poetic twist. The very forces that took him down, changing cultural norms, corporate accountability, social media amplification, also created the environment in which he could flourish as an independent media mogul. O'Reilly's departure from Fox was meant to be a career-ending scandal. Instead, it pushed him to embrace the subscription-based model that many media figures now rely on. His website, which started modestly in 2017, has grown into a multi-platform digital hub. For $5.42 a month, subscribers get access to his video broadcasts, radio archives, members-only message boards, and exclusive essays. In 2022, his syndicated radio show under the same No Spin News banner debuted on 58 stations across the US, and by 2025 it has become a steady presence on dozens more, mostly in conservative-leaning markets where his name still commands loyalty. But to understand O'Reilly's current life, you have to go back to the moment of his fall. In April 2017, the New York Times revealed that O'Reilly and Fox News had quietly reached settlements with at least 5 women over allegations of sexual harassment and other inappropriate behavior. The payouts totaled around $13 million. The article ignited a firestorm. More than 50 advertisers pulled out within a week. Women's groups mobilized. Fox employees questioned whether the network's leadership truly intended to clean up its culture after the ouster of Roger Ailes. For the Murdoch family, the pressure became unbearable. An internal investigation uncovered even more complaints, and Rupert Murdoch and his son James and Lachlan made the stunning decision to let their biggest star go. On April 19, 2017, Fox issued a terse statement announcing that Bill O'Reilly would not be returning to the network. The timing was almost cinematic. When the news broke, O'Reilly was in Italy, having just met Pope Francis at St. Peter's Square. His exit was both sudden and humiliating. For decades, he had framed himself as the unmovable center of conservative media, the man who could challenge presidents and outlast scandals. Suddenly, he was a liability. He called the allegations completely unfounded and described his ouster as tremendously disheartening, but there was no coming back to Fox. His coveted 8 p.m. slot was handed to Tucker Carlson, a rising star who would go on to dominate conservative discourse in the Trump years. What followed was a period of intense backlash and quiet recalibration. O'Reilly's critics saw his fall as justice long overdue. His supporters, still millions strong, saw it as the latest example of cancel culture and corporate cowardice. While other disgraced figures receded from public life, O'Reilly doubled down. He understood something crucial about his audience. They didn't trust mainstream institutions, and his fall only deepened their loyalty to him. Within months, he launched his online video show and podcast, effectively bypassing television altogether. He used his email list, social media following, and decades of brand recognition to build a direct-to-consumer model that insulated him from advertiser boycotts and network executives. By 2025, that strategy has paid off. O'Reilly's personal net worth is estimated at $85 million. His books continue to sell well, especially his Killing series. which remains a staple of conservative gift-giving. National Geographic adapted one of his books into a mini-series in the early 2020s, and speaking engagements, though less frequent, remain lucrative. He's no longer part of the mainstream media conversation in the way he once was, but he doesn't need to be. His subscribers provide steady income, his loyal listeners keep his message alive, and his relative isolation gives him freedom to speak without institutional oversight. Ironically, the no-spin zone has become literal. There are no Murdochs, no advertisers, no HR investigations, just Bill and his mic. Day to day, O'Reilly's life is quieter, but still deliberate. He tapes his shows from home, often starting his mornings with prep work at his home office surrounded by stacks of research binders. The topics haven't changed much: political correctness, liberal overreach, media hypocrisy, and nostalgic reflections on the America that used to be. He maintains a visible connection to Donald Trump, having encouraged him to run again in 2021 and continuing to support him through interviews and commentary. The two men even held a joint interview event in 2024, drawing a massive online audience among their shared base. Yet for all his digital success, O'Reilly lives in a different cultural universe than he did in his prime. He no longer commands the political fear he once did. Presidents no longer feel obliged to appear on his show, and the mainstream media no longer reacts to his every segment. When Tucker Carlson left Fox in 2023, media outlets analyzed the fallout with feverish intensity. O'Reilly, by comparison, has become something of a ghost king, powerful within his domain, but largely absent from the larger battlefield. His influence has become niche, though still potent within that niche. Perhaps the most revealing change is in how he interacts with his audience. During his Fox years, O'Reilly broadcasted to millions who stumbled upon his show as much as they sought it out. In 2025, everyone who hears him is there by choice. His subscribers skew older, loyal, and ideologically aligned. They see him not as a disgraced figure, but as a persecuted truth teller. His commentary often frames himself in those terms, referring to the 2017 scandal as a smear campaign and positioning his survival as proof of his righteousness. In that ecosystem, he's not just a media personality. He's a symbol of resistance against what his fans view as the woke mob and liberal media elite. His personal life remains guarded. There are occasional paparazzi shots of him walking his dog or playing golf with longtime friends, but he avoids major public appearances. When he does emerge, say for a book signing or a live speaking tour, it's carefully controlled and heavily attended by security. He's not a recluse, but he's no longer the brash everywhere figure of the 2000s. He speaks mostly to his camera and his audience, not to the broader public. And yet, there's a kind of second act narrative here. O'Reilly didn't claw his way back into the mainstream. He built a parallel kingdom. He's not on primetime cable, but he's still making millions and shaping conversations among a devoted base. The same confrontational persona that once enthralled and enraged millions hasn't changed. It's just moved platforms. In many ways, his life mirrors the broader media shift of the 2020s away from centralized gatekeepers and toward fragmented, loyal online communities. He occasionally makes waves when clips from his show go viral, usually because of his fiery commentary on hot-button issues. He's still combative, still convinced he's the smartest man in the room, and still relishes skewering journalists, politicians, and celebrities. But those viral moments don't define the news cycle anymore. They flare up, circulate within conservative circles, and then fade. He's a giant in a smaller room. His scandal remains a defining chapter, but not the end of the story. The settlements, the allegations, the advertisers fleeing, those were the blows that knocked him off his throne. What followed was something no one quite predicted, a steady, stubborn reinvention. His critics hoped he'd fade into obscurity. His supporters hoped he'd return to television glory. Instead, he charted a third path, one that suits his personality perfectly. In his world, there are no corporate overlords, no nervous PR departments, and no chance of another forced exit. The empire is smaller, but it's his. In 2025, Bill O'Reilly's life is defined by control and defiance. He's a wealthy man living on his own terms, still broadcasting daily, still writing, still railing against the world he believes has lost its way. He's both a relic of a bygone media era and a savvy participant in the new one. His scandal remains a shadow he can't entirely escape, but it's a shadow he's learned to live with and, in some ways, to monetize. The king of cable may have been dethroned, but the king of his own corner of the internet, that crown still fits.